first we will know about this Vata body type. Vata is made from air and space elements. So you can imagine there's no mass or some density to hold this personality. So they move, they are constantly energetic, and they keep changing. So that's the strength of this body type, which is in Ayurveda we say gati means movement, and sense organs and sense perception is pretty quick in these body types. So what does Vata body type show as its classical, personality? So they have light body weight. That means they don't put on a lot of body mass quickly until unless they are in a big imbalance. Otherwise, they are always tend to be leaner with lean body mass and more prominent joints, um, more visible veins, very clear observation. Because if your body fat, these people lack body fat. They don't have a lot of body fat in them. So when they have naturally less body fat, the veins will become more dominant. And you can see the veins extending even to the upper arms, not, see, everybody has some veins in their palms, but Vata types tend to show more veins going up their arms, right? This is without doing any exercise. If you are exercising, then it's obvious you burn more fat and you will see more veins. But here, this body type is you don't have to exercise, but your still veins are more visible. On the skin, because of Vata, which is air and space elements, it becomes very dry. Dry in the sense there is nothing holding these cells of the skin together so that it remains with moisture is trapped inside. Because it is so dried out, all the moisture escapes from their skin. The skin becomes extremely dry and sometimes itchy, and when you scratch, you see these white marks of scratching because the skin is already peeled off. This is a classical Vata skin, and they are sensitive to cold. So because the characteristic of Vata energy is that it is cold, dry, and light. So light, no body mass, leaner, and these are the people that can eat anything 3-4 times a day, and they can get away with it without gaining any body weight. If they gain the body weight, it's mostly in the lower part of the belly. That's where they're going to gain the body weight. So lean body mass, abnormal distribution of body fat, sometimes in the belly, sometimes in the back of the flanks, something like that. It's not uniformly distributed because like the wind, sometimes it's blowing, sometimes it's not blowing. Even the fat gets blown away to different areas and gets deposited. But you'll see more dominant veins, dominant joints, dry skin. This is a somewhat the appearance of the skin and the body of a Vata type. And when it comes to communication, Vata types are really excited about everything that they want to say, and their voice kind of gets high pitch, low pitch, high pitch, low pitch. There's no tone to it. So they get like suddenly they start with a high pitch and shouting and bit of excitement, and suddenly this excitement comes down. It's very classical of wind, because in the classical text of Ayurveda, Vata means wind. So this trait is wind type. It's sometimes very blowing, sometimes it's not blowing. So the voice is like that. And also their expression, sometimes they're trying to connect things together, but they never come together because the wind is pulling in each direction and their thoughts are also going in all directions. So they try to narrate, let's say they're narrating a story, but this story is never completed. They just get distracted and pulled towards all these directions. And by the time they finish the story, they don't know what they are saying. And then like, oh, I don't know what I was supposed to say. But here, this is the story. They just complete it without proper conclusions. So Vatas are always excited. They do a lot of, they do have a lot of energy. They continue to, spend their energy on little like spurts of energy. When it comes to mind control, Vata people have a lot of difficulty to control their mind and keep their focus because they have so many ideas popping out at the same time. They're not able to choose which is an important thought and which is not an important thought. And when it comes to patience, you can imagine this wind personalities have very little patience, and you can say that their tolerance is also pretty low. So if they don't get along with something, they will move on. And that's why they have very less friends. And this is a very interesting observation from the great sages of Ayurveda, that they have less forgiveness or they didn't care. So if there is something going on between their friends, if they don't get along, they'll move on and they don't care. Keen observation about their intellect, memory, willpower is also being recorded by the great masters of Ayurveda. They say that the intellect of Vata people is somewhat quick, but it is not organized. So that's where they will not be able to complete their task if they don't are not organized. So Vatas need to be really organized to complete their task. Whereas their memory is also very wavy. So they say that the memory of a Vata person is like a cloud. It stays for some time and it moves. So they are challenged with memory. And when it comes to the willpower is a missing concept in Vata people because they depend on other people's will. Like if somebody is given a task to them, they will try to hold on to that will of another person, but by themselves, they have very challenging willpower. And grasping. The power of grasping for Vata people is amazing. They grasp everything very quickly, but they cannot retain it. So the power of grasping is good. They're quick learners, and they also tend to forget quickly, which is an advantage, which is a blessing in itself. If there is some bad experience, they forget things pretty quickly and move on in life. And you can see that Vata people have a lot of creative energy in them. So their creation is in music, art. Their creative energy can be graphic designing. It can be even like something that is flying, expanding into multiple medias. So these people have unlimited access to so much of space in their creativity. And they say in the classical text that Vata people are very enthusiastic. They are cheerleaders. They want to cheer everybody. But when it comes to their own mood, they can't keep it constant. They have always a little bit of ups and downs in their moods. At times, they can be envious. If they don't have it, they have envy, building up in them. Not as much as Pitta, but they do feel envious about things that they don't have. Fear is a constant drive in them. They are not able to put themselves in front because fear is always something that governs their personality, because both air and space are cold and their personalities tend to be a little colder in a way that they cannot express for themselves. And when it comes to their sense organs, it is said that their sense organs are pretty excitable: smell, touch, skin, vision. So Vata people can be very perceptive to things, but at the same time, they can be distracted at every stimulus that comes into their sense perception. It is also said that when they get really strong sensory perception, their nervous system kind of gets hyped and they start shivering or shaking, or the excitement cannot be controlled by them. Details about their personal life. Vata people have not a great, sexual drive because they tend to have less desire or short-lived libido. Hence, Vata people also have less children or have no interest in children. Now, some very unique physical characteristics. In the beginning, I spoke about the skin texture. How about the nails? The nails of Vata people are pretty thin and are brittle because the dry quality of Vata makes it brittle, and thin because of the light quality. They flake off, and they seem to be very small nailed, not thick nailed. And even the lunula, the small, the half moon shaped part that comes at the base of the nail, is seem to be very small for them. So when somebody sits in front of you, now you can see whether their body type is Vata or not by just looking at their nails and skin. And their joints always crack. So there's lack of lubrication because the dryness again causes the joints to crack all the time. So these are the people who are very musical in their movements because their joints are always popping. Then the hair also seems to be very dry. The scalp is dry, the lips are dry. It's just basically that air and space having no lubrication whatsoever. Um, when we look at the type of the general body shape that they have, the hands may be longer than their torso. So there's a little bit of disproportion that also you can see that has been observed and recorded in the classical textbooks of Ayurveda. When it comes to their appetite and thirst, there is a little challenge. Their appetite can be much variable. They can be eating something 3 times or 4 times a day. Another time they may be just interested in eating twice a day. Sometimes it can be snacking all day long. So this inconsistency and sitting in one place and eating is a challenge for Vata people as well. But they can function with minimum nutrition. That's their advantage. So when thirst, they are pretty thirsty because they tend to have dryness, but they forget to drink. That's one common, personality issue that Vata people, they are, even though thirsty, they are not drinking enough fluids. Sleep. Vatas and sleep do not get along very well because their steadiness and stillness is not in their energetic makeup. So they tend to have also less sleep, dream a lot. Sometimes they get up in the middle of the night and start writing their dreams because they're so vivid and fascinating for them to know their dreams are like this. Sometimes these dreams can be fear-based. Sometimes they can be like not very connected to anything, very variable types of dreams. And when they work out, their energy, as I said, is not constant. They sweat less because the body temperature to get to that level of perspiration is pretty high. You have to work a lot to make them sweat. So Vata people sweat less, sleep less, but have great energy. And women who are Vata types, when they have their menstrual cycle too, their emotions can be much moody, and at times they can even notice that their cramps are severe cramps. Things like that can happen to Vata women who are going through their menstrual cycle.